And here he is, the wonderful Godfrey Bloom. Good morning to you, Godders.
Good morning, my dear. How are you?
Well, you're looking fabulous. Have you been sun tanning?
No, I've been a month in South America. I've been investigating the new approach from the president of Argentina, applying Austrian school economics, and he's turned the economy round in just 18 months by sacking thousands and thousands of freeloaders in the public sector, and he's stabilized the currency, and he's done an interesting job. I mean, he looks like a barking mad lunatic when you actually see him, but he's doing the right things. And it's so easy. It isn't difficult. You get all sorts of economists on mainstream media with doctorates in economics and all the rest of it who actually don't understand how global economies work at all. They're placemen, and they're absolutely and utterly hopeless. And of course, we're in the third generation now of Keynesian economics. So they all piss in the same pot.
If you're not familiar with Godfrey Bloom, and why ever not, he's an English author, he's an economist, he's a former member of the European Parliament, he has a military historian background. There's not much that this man doesn't know. He wrote this wonderful book as well as many others. And before you proceed, Godfrey, I should just say that this gold coin that I hold in my hand is as a consequence of your wonderful advice. Shout out to several of our wonderful viewers, including lovely Trev. Lovely Trev gave me gold coins after taking your advice and making profit, turning profit. And people tell me this about you, Godfrey, that you literally created profit for them by them simply following your advice on gold. So we're going to talk about gold today, but we're going to talk about so much else. I want to start to do with Trump, really. I think a lot of it is emanating from Trump and what's going on regarding the tariffs. Tell me your thoughts.
Well, I think Trump is a bit like Trump, is he not, the curate's egg when he was asked how his egg was. He said, it's good in parts. And I think Trump is good in parts. I think he's cleared out the stables, the organ stables, has he not, with all the freeloaders like Milei and like we desperately need to do here, all the people on the public ticket who don't need to be on the public ticket at all, don't add any value. He's cleared them out, which is very good, and he's turned out some interesting names too, hasn't he? People on the ticket. We had our previous Prime Minister was on the ticket. We've had Tobias Ellwood was on the ticket, all under the counter. For all sorts of weird things. It's a way of buying influence. And of course, that's all been exposed, and we need that very badly here. So he's doing a very good job there. Tariffs, of course. Tariffs are a very complex thing. They don't historically usually work very well. And of course, economies bring it on themselves. Now, it seems that the Chinese can make electric vehicles very much more efficiently and cheaper than anybody else. But nobody actually ever asked quite why that is. And of course, they don't have nonsense like net zero, which means their cost of energy is much cheaper. They don't have paternity leave, maternity leave, and all the kind of things that we load on to employers here, and an employment tax which has just been increased by the idiot chancellor that we have. So we make manufacturing in Western Europe and North America extremely expensive. Right. And then we're surprised it all disappears to India or China. But of course, it's something that we create ourselves. So Trump, mixed bag, frightened about his overseas policy, which always worries me a little bit. It's still American weaponry that is supporting the genocide in Gaza, and we're party to that as well. And in spite of them all saying, oh, it isn't our war in the Ukraine, it's not our war, it's nothing to do with us, it's so disingenuous, it's unbelievable. Of course they started it. It was part of their great global regime change. So I'm not anti-American. I've got lots of American friends who actually agree with me on this.
Same.
You know, they're mad. They're mad. Washington is full of psychos.
Well, definitely, like Whitehall is as well. Two W's,
Exactly.
really interesting. But how do you? So I've been watching the world markets. I'm not financially minded, as anybody knows about me, right? I'm much more kind of like about content as opposed to money. But even I'm fascinated by it because there's lots of doom and gloom, but there always is, isn't there, regarding the world markets? But do you think there's more of an edge to it now? Because what we have is a trade war standoff between China and USA. There's a warning that Trump's tariffs are like going to deeply, deeply impact all the bigger chains like Walmart, like Target, and that will ultimately impact the UK as well, because the global economy is all intertwined. But how will it ultimately impact us in the UK, do you think, Godfrey?
Well, the problem is that we don't have any political parties that actually understand why we're in decline. This is the problem. So we can't find a cure. We can't put it right if people don't understand why it's going wrong.
Right.
Bit like somebody driving a car with 4 flat tires and it bumps along. It doesn't seem to handle very well, but they can't admit that it's 4 flat tires. They think the steering wheel's in the wrong place or the seat's in the wrong place. So we are sadly governed economically by morons. And plus the fact, of course, strings that are being pulled by these morons as far as the World Economic Forum is concerned. And it was, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist and all the rest of it. It's plain for all to see. All you need to, funny enough, it's not a secret, the World Economic Forum and globalism. All you need to do is Google their website. And they are perfectly clear and plain about what their goal is. And you mentioned earlier, and I was watching your show earlier, it's all backed by, in this country, of course, King Charles, who has to sign off. He has to ratify all legislation in this country. It goes to him for final ratification after assessment by the House of Lords. But of course, that means no assessment at all, because the House of Lords is bought and sold, and King Charles is sort of bordering, I would guess, if you want to look up the Mad King of Bavaria of about 125 years ago. I mean, he's clearly Prince Charles is clearly the king is clearly quite bonkers, and he's part of the World Economic Forum game as well. And it's no secret he's been photographed and photographed and photographed with Klaus Schwab and WEF platform, as has his son. So don't think it's going to get any better when the boy comes in, because it's not.
Exactly. And I noted some UK headlines today. I think this was a story from the Times, actually, about Blackrock CEO buying undervalued UK assets. Now, remember, we had that quite controversial meeting, which was Larry Fink, Bill Gates, Rachel Reeves, and Keir Starmer. So what's going on here? I mean, as you say, a lot of the time we don't really know what's going on in terms of the UK economy, but this appears that Blackrock is literally seizing our assets. What do you think about that? What do you think about the involvement of Gates and Blackrock at all? Because they talked about us being in partnership with Blackrock, Keir Starmer did. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, again, of course, it's no secret. You don't need the brains of an archbishop to find out what's going on. You see Bill Gates and BlackRock representation and Vanguard representation going in and out of number 10 Downing Street. And we know that the great ambition for BlackRock, and Bill Gates is one of the biggest landowners in the United States, they want to be buying up agricultural land, which gives them control and profit in this country. And it's important that it becomes undervalued. Now, at the moment, agricultural land isn't undervalued. It's quite expensive at whatever it happens to be. And I have a small holding myself. Let's call it £10,000 an acre, depending on the acreage, so on and so forth, but picking a figure, broadly speaking, which isn't too far out. So what do you want to do if you want to reduce the value of this land? You find out all family farms. Let's say most farms are family, even if they're quite big. So what you do is you put an inheritance tax, which is what they've done on family farms. And so it means that we all know that farmers, love them or hate them, and they're a mixed bunch, I have to say. Farmers, generally speaking, are asset rich, but cash poor.
Yeah.
You know, it's all in land and tractors and buildings and so on and so forth. So they're not cash rich. So if a farmer wants to pass it down to his son, which is very much a British thing, it's father to son farms is the thing. Of course, that's what the government hates, because they can't control it. If you punish that transaction by 25%, it means that the incoming son to farm is in a very difficult position because he's got to find 20% of the value of the land. So it means that he probably, not in all cases, will probably have to sell that. And to whom will he sell? Well, he'll sell to Larry Fink. And this is all part of the game. So what actually happens is the Chancellor gets their 25% of the land value. They get it to blow away and send to the Ukraine or wherever they're going to send it. But we know it's going to be squandered. And of course, all the incoming traffic at Bill Gates and all the rest of them buy stuff at a depressed price, which is part of the globalist game. And it's all there for everybody to see. And sadly, there is no political party in this country, and listen to this because I know about these matters, I've been on the inside. There are no political parties who are going to do anything about it. They are all the same, they're all crooks. Some talk a better story than others. Some talk a better story than others. But they are all crooks, and all people can do, which is part of what we're just going to go on to, I think, is the only thing that you can do for you and your family is hunker down, find out what's going on, and react accordingly. As I have for the last 20 years, my entire portfolio is in gold. Not that it's particularly great these days now. I'm an old man. I've squandered most of it myself, but I've on good things like
You're
booze
living
and women.
well. Exactly. You're living well.
So it doesn't matter because I'm 75 and I don't really need much money these days. But if you're in the middle of your career, that you have to make sure that you and your family are protected. So I've got a small holding, and what I have is in gold, and so I'm well set. But I've got a much younger wife. Of course, I have to make sure that she's okay. She's got pool boys to pay for and all that kind of stuff, and her booze bill. So consequently, I have to make sure that she's okay. But we need to look after our families. And we can only do that ourselves if we get our ducks in a row.
So gold seems to, again, going back to my lack of financial understanding, but gold seems to be one of those things that is consistently safe, though, Godfrey. Is that a fair comment?
Yes. And you held up a gold coin. I'll do the same thing. This little baby here is dated 1905. What we've got to understand when it comes to money, only gold is money, as J.P. Morgan said in 1912. And he said again, and everybody, everything else is credit. Paper money is just credit, which is a bill signed by central banks and politicians. So only gold is money. And this is what one has to understand. This was the equivalent of a pound coin in 1905, a sovereign. And if you look at your history books and carefully, you'll see you could stay in a very good hotel bed and breakfast in either Berlin, Paris, London, or New York for a sovereign. You're a sovereign. You know, that bed and breakfast. Today, this sovereign will buy you a bed and breakfast in a reasonably good hotel in those cities again, and it will in 100 years' time. It's not an investment. I keep telling people this. It's not an investment. It is a store of wealth because it's money. Now, what's happening? People think the price of gold is going up. Not really. It doesn't really work that way. What is happening is that paper money is going down. So you'll see the dollars collapsing, the pounds collapsing, the yen's collapsing, and it's making gold look more. It's making gold more expensive. But then, of course, if you look at the flip side of that, your pint of bitter now is damn near £5 or £4.50, which to me is an absolute bloody disaster because I hoover the stuff up in gallons. So this is the problem. And of course, look at if you've got housewives watching, for example. Can I say housewives? Or is that misogynist? Anyway, never mind. Housewives, when they go for their basket of groceries, they know that it's nearly double what it was 3 years ago. And this is because of the degradation of money, of paper money and credit. And now, of course, this government's talking about a black hole of 25 million when they came in. If only. They're spending money like a drunken sailor on Chorley, but it's not going to potholes. It's not going into education. It's not going into the National Health Service, heaven forbid. But these are the problems that we have. It's being sent abroad.
And it's also
You know,
going into things like this as well. Great British Energy, for goodness sake.
I know, which we all know doesn't work because it doesn't produce anything when the wind doesn't blow. And if you
Right.
look at the cost, and not only the financial cost, you look at the environmental cost, the amount of copper and concrete and all the rest of it that goes into wind turbines. It's an absolute joke, which is why Germany, who led the way on this, was something like 30 or 40,000 big wind turbines, are returning to coal to try and save their industries. Wind doesn't work. Solar doesn't work. I mean, can you imagine thousands of acres at the moment going up of solar panels in Yorkshire? No, I
Right.
love Yorkshire. I
Right.
love living here.
Right.
I love the people. It's absolutely fantastic. But the sun don't shine very often.
Right.
And
There's a reason for
now,
that.
when it does shine, Miliband's going to spray chemicals all over the bloody place to stop it shining.
Right.
I mean, it's the madhouse. But now this is the point. We all think, and a lot of people think, and this is a big mistake that they make, that they're all barking mad and crazy.
Right.
They are not crazy.
No,
This is a
no.
deliberate
Yes.
policy, as
Yes.
is mass immigration,
Yeah.
to destroy the country so they can rebuild it on global lines, on,
Right.
on an international globalist line. This is not stupidity. This is quite deliberate, these swines. And I would, of course, have them all lined up and shot.
Of course you would. And the thing is, you're dropping truth bombs like they're going out of fashion this morning, which is absolutely wonderful. We love it. But I have questions from the viewers here. Jan says, what if the government decide to make people sell their gold to them? It happened before. Do you know about that?
Yeah, well, it didn't happen in this country. It happened in France in the late 1700s. And of course, it happened in the United States in 1933. And they sort of made everybody sell their gold back to the government. And it was Roosevelt who then revalued it from something in the 20s, 20 odd dollars, into something like $32 or $33. That was in 1933. The exact numbers escape me. And of course, Roosevelt, is regarded as a lovely president and what a wonderful man he was, an absolute crook. It was an absolute crook. He stole everybody's gold savings. Now, it hasn't happened here. Now, here's the situation as I see it. It would be very difficult for him to it would be not difficult for him to confiscate gold bullion. It's very difficult for him to confiscate this because it's coin of the realm. Sovereigns and Britannias and half sovereigns are coin of the realm. That makes it extremely complicated for him to confiscate it. The other thing is that you have to bear in mind is the audit trail of owning it. Now, once you've bought it, and I've been a gold bug since when I got out of equities in the late 1999 or whatever it was, I can't remember, round about then, there is no audit trail. They know they can easily find out if you've bought gold this year or last year or the year before. But there's absolutely no audit trail. They can find out the amount of gold I bought in 1999 when Gordon Brown was selling it at 250 quid an ounce. What a tosspot. So they have no audit trail. How could they confiscate it? That's point one. Point two is, now this is quite an extraordinary factor. The only people buying gold at the moment really are central banks. The central banks, of course, who understand money and paper money, they know where things are going because central bankers aren't daft. Commercial bankers, your high street bankers, are daft, but central bankers aren't because they're evil bastards and they know exactly how things are going to work. So what you have to do is follow the money, follow the gold. But if you buy it in this form, it's very difficult for them to touch it. And so this is really what you need to be bearing in mind. This is the stuff, not bullion, not bricks, and certainly not paper, not ETFs, because that's dying as we speak. That's crashing as we speak. So you need to get the right kind of gold, and it needs to be in the right kind of place, and you have to be very observant about your audit trail. Take delivery where you can. If it's a big amount, don't keep it at home. Keep it not with the bank, which banks are owned by the government. Keep it in a safe deposit, and keep it also without a trail. So nobody needs to know what you've got in a box in London or Manchester or Leeds or wherever it happens to be. So there we are.
Let me ask this. Markson said, if you cannot afford gold, buy silver. Is that good advice?
Well, we're going back to the degradation of money. it's not like cars. Silver's cheaper than gold per ounce, but it's always been cheaper than gold per ounce, in the same way that a Mini is cheaper than a Jag. It depends. Now, what the question really should be, and I understand the question, I understand the reason behind it. What's better value, perhaps, as a metal at the moment? And silver's been in the doldrum now for decades. It's also an industrial metal. There's a big shortage of it, and it hasn't moved in the same way as gold has. And the gold ratio, silver ratio used to be 15 to 1. It used to be 15 to 1. It's now nearly 95 to 1. So the imbalance is really quite astonishing. But of course, it's suppressed. The price of silver is suppressed by some of the big investment banks like JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and so on and so forth. They depress it. They can't do that forever. So here would be my advice. If you are of a more speculative nature, and you would like to see it run away, the price run away in a few years and make more money, if you will, silver's a very good bet. Again, it has to be coin of the realm. It has to be Silver Britannia's. You can't take delivery, otherwise you will pay VAT. So you have to leave it with your dealer, who will keep safekeeping, for which he will charge you. Do not take delivery of silver coins. Leave it with them. Then you can sell it. You can then sell it on the phone when you need to raise money. And the more reputable dealers I list on my website, and you can find them. If they're not reputable, they would not be on my website. The website is not for profit. It takes advertising, stuff like that. But you need to read it. And my website is the most now. So my producer tells me it is now the most comprehensive website in the country, independent website in the country. It started sort of 8 or 9 years ago, and it's just got bigger and bigger. And I have lots of contributors, international players who come on from either Switzerland or London or New York, who come on and add value. And there's interviews and all sorts. It's quite extensive. It's not just me droning on; it's other people droning on.
You never drone on, never. We love you. And so here's the thing. Cameron said the US government limited how much gold you could hold. Do you know about that?
No, it's not true.
That's not true.
No.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. And what else? So here's the thing, is that you obviously, right, you spent a long time looking at this. You're a financial man, an economist. You understand how this all works. Is there an ultimate big influence that decides on financial money markets around the world, or is it more complicated than that?
It's difficult to put your finger on it, but you have the International Bank of Settlements,
right?
International central banks, and you have the manipulation that used to be by the big investment banks in London and Wall Street. Their power over manipulation of gold and silver is dying. It's going as I speak. It's going. It can't be done. You can't manipulate the price of something forever. You can certainly do it in the short term, and in silver, quite a long term, and in gold, sometimes for several years at a time. So if you look at the history of gold, you can see sometimes it's flatlined for maybe, I think, 4 or 5 years. But as I say again to everybody, it's not for Christmas. Don't sort of invest in gold coins or silver coins, for Christmas or for next Easter or something. It doesn't work like that. You stow it away, you stuff it away, and you hang on to it for quite a long time. It needs to be quite a long time. Okay, we've just had a run since I was last on the show, and it's gone up it's gone up something like 25 or 30%. But again, that's because we've seen the degradation in paper money. So don't do anything until you've read the website, because it's independent. It's all there, and it takes some time. Sit down with a cup of tea and spend half an hour at least
how
on
it's
it.
all working. This is an interesting comment from James. If your bullion is not in your hands, it's no better than holding Bitcoin, surely.
No, that's a popular misconception. If you have it in a safe deposit box and you have the key, you have control of it. It's yours. If it's not in your possession, if you leave it with somebody as a share of an overall bullion and it's not labeled in your name, if you can't go and get it yourself with a key, and bring it out, then it's not in your possession. But if you have a key and it's in deposit, then you can go and get it. Now, the problem with Bitcoin is, and then they're often confused. They're not the same thing at all. People think, oh, is it Bitcoin or is it gold? It doesn't work like that. That's not how it works. The thing is with Bitcoin, it's an electronically held digital holding with an audit trail. So, for example, if you've got your key and you can go and get your gold from your deposit box, it's in your possession. If, for example, let me just have a flight of fancy, or maybe not quite so fanciful, if you had a thermo bomb go off, a pulse bomb, which doesn't destroy anything except the electronics, you will not have access to your Bitcoin because your computer screens will be completely blank. And this is the reason it's still not used. And it's been around for a long time, Bitcoin. It's used as an investment, a speculative investment, not as money. You try going anywhere and trying to get anything with Bitcoin, you'll only sell your Bitcoin either for cash or to somebody else who wants to buy your Bitcoin. It's not internationally recognized money, as JP Morgan said all those years ago, which is held by... I'm not anti-Bitcoin, by the way. If you've got a tough stomach, if you can stand the volatility, but it's got nothing to do with gold. It's got nothing to do with gold. Gold's been around for 5,000 years, and it will buy you, as I said at the beginning, it'll buy you, bought in 1905, it'll buy you the same today, and it'll buy you the same in 100 years' time. They're not the same beast. And it's like one of your viewers came on and said, I live in a very rural community and the roads are absolutely terrible, and sometimes I have to drive across a field to get to town. You'd say buy a 4-wheel drive Range Rover or Land Rover or something. But if somebody said, I want to buzz around the south of France pulling the crumpet, you'd say, well, you want a drop head Jag, don't you? They're not the same thing.
They're not the same thing, not at all. His website, is it Godfrey Bloom? What's your website? GodfreyBloom.com.
Small case, GodfreyBloom.uk.
We must put a link in the description. I know we've got a link in the description of your YouTube, which is fantastic. Godfrey, before you leave us, I always like to give the final word to some of my guests. Final word is yours.
I'd just like to reiterate, there's not much we can do at the moment, it seems to me, politically. Certainly under the system that we have, the parliamentary democratic party system we have, basically we have a uni party. They're all as bad as each other. And I think anybody who watches your show makes themselves informed. They don't need me to tell them that. But you can take steps. What savings you've got, again, gold or silver, if you don't take delivery and don't take the VAT. Nothing wrong with silver. I like silver. You need a stash. This might sound a bit dramatic, but particularly if you live in the cities. I live in the countryside, so it's different for me. But even I have a stash of at least a month of tinned food, canned food, just in case the balloon goes up. And we don't know what's going on in the future, but don't be caught with your trousers down. Make an effort, see what's going on in the world, and to protect your family as best you can and ride out the storm. Don't be taken by surprise, because we know bad times are coming. Things can only get worse. I don't want to be too doom and gloom, but we've come through stuff before, but we can't touch on that. There's no time. But the other problem we have, of course, is mass immigration, which is another way of degrading our institutions and our country. So you have to look at all these things and be aware. So the scouting group, of course, the British Scouts have always taken the same thing: be prepared. Be prepared. And it doesn't just mean carrying a bog roll in your pocket.
No, absolutely not. Don't panic. Get organized, says Jackie. Absolutely. That is absolutely preparation all the way. Loved having you with us this morning. Of course, you're in fine form. Everybody, this is the remarkable Godfrey Bloom. Do not get in his way today. What, did they put something in your cornflakes, Godfrey? Because you are on fire. Love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much. Merv says,
Great
thanks
pleasure.
for reappearing, Godfrey. You are knowledgeable, entertaining, and you make Sonia laugh. He does indeed, and I love it. Everybody, Godfrey Bloom, take good care of yourself, Goddess. Have a lovely weekend to you and the missus.
Thank you again.
Take care, sweetheart. Lovely. He's a little star, isn't he?
It's time to wake up. with Sonia Poulton.